Hello, everyone. Welcome to Gaming Gold Episode 3. It is April 22nd, 2013. I'm your host, Jordan Rader. And today I want to talk about something that may not be very popular, but talk about sort of the state of the gaming industry and recent events that happened. Things like the EA layoffs and Disney closing LucasArts, the video game side of it, anyway. So I wanted to sort of talk about that and just give my sort of perspective and my views on it, as well as sort of the business side of it, I guess. What little bit I know, but just sort of give some insights. And I understand that the organize my thoughts here. That the perception is that, oh, this is a bad thing, and it does really suck to lose your job. I've been part of a layoff. I know a lot of people have, but to lose your job and not necessarily know where you're going or what's going to happen, all those things really suck. But it does add some turbulence to the game industry and things like that. But I think as a whole, it will actually improve things, and I'll go into that. So first, in case you guys don't know, EA laid off about 170 people from their Montreal office, and then another 50 at another office that I don't remember off the top of my head. Sorry. So that's like 220 people. And Disney closed LucasArts and canceled the two projects that they were working on, Star Wars 1313 and Battlefront 3. Um, so we'll start with EA. EA laid off a bunch of people, and so they're trimming up their sort of business model, and sometimes that's necessary. And if you've got a division that's not producing, not making money, you have to look at it from a business perspective. I mean, it sucks for us as gamers because if we played the games that they were working on, or we were looking forward to something they were working on, those titles are either going to be delayed or all out canceled, and those things suck. So, but I think that, and most of the people that were laid off in Montreal, it was 100 contractors that were testers, and 50 actual uh, employees for the that were handling other parts of the game stuff. So it's it's one of those things where, so now we've got what, 300 people, 400 people that are an influx into this already really competitive market of game designers and animators and lighting artists and all these people that are in the game industry that are now looking for work, and that was already a very competitive industry anyway. So I think that that's a good thing. I think that having high competition means that we're going to get higher quality product in the long run. In the short term, it still sucks. Um, so with Disney closing LucasArts now, they completely shut it down. But the reason why they did that is they're going to get a better product out of it. Instead of having the overhead of managing a game studio and stuff like that, they can then keep those licenses and then have other game development companies place bids on those and say, okay, we want to work on this project, we want to work on that project, and they can get that competition. Same thing, competition. They can get that competition to to say, hey, we'll make it for this much, and we're gonna, we'll give you this good of a product, things like that. So, and then Disney can say, okay, well, we're willing to pay this much, and this person's going to give us the best quality for that price. Boom. So we get higher quality products. Disney has less overhead, and then so everybody wins in that case. It still sucks that 150 people lost their jobs. That's going to hurt. I'm in Northern California, so that's going to hurt my local, sort of money. The local money and stuff like that. That's 150 people that now aren't getting paid a lot of money. So, um, so yeah, just those little things like that. Um, so I think that in the long run, it's going to be a good thing. It's a good change. Um, in the short term, like I said, it still sucks. So to sort of transition here. Um, EA has been voted the worst company in America for the second year in a row. I agree that they have made some business decisions that do not reflect well on them from the gaming community. They've done some stuff that I don't like, um, but I think that there's a couple things that feed into that. So EA is a business. They want, they have a certain amount of money they have to make every year to keep their shareholders and, board and all those people happy. So there's certain expectations they have to meet. So what happens when they acquire a studio like BioWare? They basically tell BioWare, okay, hey, we're going to give you a ton of money, more money than you're used to ever seeing, but we expect you to get produce this much money per year. And that's pretty much the amount of involvement that they have. I mean, they don't tell them, hey, you have to push this out early. They say, you have this time frame, and then it's up to BioWare or any other company for that matter that they own, um, to produce money in the year. So what ends up happening is you get your DLCs, you get your early releases that shouldn't have been out yet, and all that type of stuff. Um, if you look at Activision and Blizzard, Blizzard did something very, very smart. They were going to have three titles. All three of their flagship titles were going to release in the same year. And instead of saying, "Oh, well, yeah, we'll just release everything this year and we'll make tons and tons of profit," and then the next year having to rush something out or rely on certain things to get money in, they said, you know what, we're going to take one of those titles and we're going to push it back 5 months so that it's in next year. So now they have two titles releasing in one year, one title releasing the next year. Activision's happy, Blizzard's happy. The gamers have to wait a little bit of time, so they're not as happy, but it means that hopefully anyway, they get a higher quality product because that got delayed. So I think that it's really up to companies like BioWare or anybody who's been acquired by EA or Activision or Sony, any of those big ones that own a lot of these little studios or contract out to these little studios that and they say, hey, you have to produce something, you have to give us this much money every year, you have to make this much money for us every year. Um, I think that it's really important for those companies to sort of take a step back, look at what they're producing, how long it takes to produce it, and sort of say, okay, if we need to release a title every year in order to make the quota, basically. So instead of rushing things out the door, what they need to do is stagger their releases. So they shouldn't like. I know that right now BioWare has Dragon Age 3, Mass Effect 4, although they don't want to call it Mass Effect 4 because the trilogy is done, the stuff with Shepard is done. So they want to call it something else, but it's going to be in the Mass Effect universe. So their next Mass Effect game, whatever it is. So what they really need to do is have one that releases one year and one that releases the following year. And if to get that set up, they have to delay one a few months, fine by me. You know, take that stuff that would be day one DLC and then package it into the game because you're going to wait another 3 months to release or another 5 months to release, something like that. Um, I think that that's a much better idea than rushing it out the door, having a crappy end game, or stuff that this animation's not right or this feels clunky or stuff isn't balanced quite right, all that type of stuff. So rather than having that, just delay one a little bit, just set it in your product slate that we're going to release this one there and this one here. And yeah, maybe one of your titles isn't as popular, so you're not going to make quite as much money on that game. Okay, big deal. you know that doesn't mean that you push the other one out the door so you get a lot of revenue this year and then now you're pushing stuff out the door next year, and that's just slow down, make a quality product, use the stuff to your advantage. And I think that if the game companies can do that, if they can sort of work their timelines so that they're not rushed by EA and things like that, or not rushed by Activision or whoever, you know. Um, Final Fantasy 14 is a great example. They they came out with Square came out with Final Fantasy 14, huge disaster, huge flop because they weren't listening to their player base. They weren't listening to people. They said, "Oh, well, we're right. This is what people want, and that's what we're gonna do." And it turns out, no, people hated it. Um, so they basically made the game free to play, and they let people extended beta test it effectively and play it for like another year and a half. And then they closed it so that and all that time they were introducing new things. They were listening to players. They were doing things that people wanted, and everything they could do within that engine, they did. They finished up their story part of it. They closed the servers so they could put all their new systems and all the new game basically on those old, on the servers, so they could reuse their hardware. Why wouldn't you? And then now they're in closed beta for A Realm Reborn, which is basically their entirely new game, um, which is very cool. And so they're taking their time. They've invested so much money into this game; it's ridiculous. But they're doing what needs to be done to make a quality product, and then they'll release it, and we'll see how it does. I'm very excited about it. Um, it's shaping up to be very, very cool. If you haven't looked at it, take a look at Final Fantasy: A Realm Reborn. Um, their official site has a lot of good information. There's a lot of other good information out there. If you have time, look up the developer logs from Yoshi P. He's got, I think there's 6 live videos now. They're all about an hour and a half to 2 hours each, and they're all in Japanese, but they do have subtitles and they do have Q&As. Sorry, I've got a fly buzzing around me here. So they're all very, very cool. And so take a look at those, and if you're interested in the game, if you're not interested in the game, no biggie. I just thought I'd throw it out there. So looking over my notes here, it looks like I've covered everything I wanted to cover for today. If you have any questions, comments, feedback on the show, all that type of stuff, keep it coming. I live on that stuff. It helps me get better every week. So yeah, keep it coming. Thank you guys. Have a nice day. Hey guys, if you like the show, feel free to follow or subscribe on Facebook at facebook.com/gaminggold88, on YouTube at youtube.com/gaminggold88, or on Twitter at Jordan Raider. Thank you. Have a nice day.